Surah 72. Al-Jinn. Context. Period of revelation. According to a hadith narrated in the books of Bukhari and Muslim, on the authority of Abdullah ibn Abbas, a famous companion, once the Prophet was going to visit the fair of Ukaz, with some of his companions. On the way, he led the Fajr morning prayer at Nakhla. At that time a company of the jinn happened to pass that way. When they heard the Quran being recited, they stopped and listened to it attentively. This very event has been described in this surah. Most of the commentators, on the basis of this hadith, believe that this relates to the Prophet's well-known journey to Taif, which had taken place 3 years before the Hijrah, in the 10th year of the prophethood. But this is not correct for several reasons. The jinns hearing the Quran during the journey to Taif has been related in Surah Al-Kahf, verses 29 to 32. A cursory reading of those verses shows that the jinn who had believed after hearing the Quran on that occasion were already believers in the Prophet Moses and the previous scriptures. On the contrary, verses 2 to 7 of this surah clearly show that the jinn who heard the Quran on this occasion were polytheists and deniers of the hereafter and prophethood. Then it is confirmed historically, that in his journey to Taif none accompanied the Prophet except Zayd bin Haritha. On the contrary, concerning this journey Ibn Abbas says that the Prophet was accompanied by some of his companions. Furthermore, the hadith also agree, that in the journey the jinn heard the Quran when the Prophet had stopped at Nakhla, on his return journey from Taif to Mecca. And in this journey, according to the hadith of Ibn Abbas, the event of the jinns hearing the Quran occurred when the Prophet was going to Ukaz, from Mecca. Therefore, in view of these reasons, what seems to be correct is that in Surah Al-Kahf and Surah Al-Jinn, one and the same event has not been narrated. But these were two separate events, which took place during two separate journeys. As far as Surah 46, Al-Kahf, in which a similar event is narrated, it is agreed that that event occurred on the return journey from Taif, in the 10th year of prophethood. As for the question, when this second event took place, its answer is not given by the narration of Abdullah ibn Abbas, nor does any other historical narration or tradition show when the Prophet had gone to the fair of Ukaz. However, a little consideration of verses 8 to 10 of this surah shows that this could only be an event of the earliest stage of prophethood. In these verses, it has been stated that before the appointment of the Prophet to the divine mission, the jinn used to eavesdrop in the lowest heaven, the universes, in order to hear news of the unseen or future. The news of the future events were informed to the angels by God, who would pass this information through the heavens, until it reached the lowest heaven, where the jinn would sit and wait to catch something being spoken about. After the revelation began, they suddenly found that angels had been set as guards, and meteorites were being shot on every side, so that they could find no place of safety from where they could hear such secrets. Thereupon they realized that this must be due to some major event occurring, for which the secrets were being hidden from them. The jinn were therefore moving about in search of an unusual occurrence on the earth, and a group of them, on hearing the Quran from the Prophet, immediately understood that this was the very thing for which the secrets of the heavens had now been guarded against them. Reality of Jinn. Before one starts the study of this surah, one must clearly understand the reality of the jinn, to avoid any confusion. Many people assume that the jinn are not real and are merely ancient superstitions and myths. They have formed this opinion without recognizing all the realities of the universe, knowing that man does not have a complete knowledge of things. They have assumed without true reasoning, that nothing exists in the universe except what they can see, whereas the sphere of human perception of this great universe is not even comparable to a drop of water in an ocean. In fact, a person who thinks that what he does not perceive does not exist, and what exists must necessarily be perceived, provides a proof to the narrowness of his own thinking. With this mode of thought, man cannot acknowledge any reality which he cannot directly experience and observe, and will inevitably not even agree to the existence of God. leave alone any other unseen reality like the jinn. Muslims who have been influenced by this thinking have given strange interpretations of the clear statements of the Quran about the jinn and Satan, who is from the jinn too. They say that this does not refer to any hidden creation, which has its own independent existence, but it implies man's own animalistic nature, which has been called Satan. On other occasions, they suggest that the verses of the Quran referring to jinns relate to the savage and wild mountain tribes or the people who used to listen to the Quran secretly. But the statements of the Quran in this regard are so clear and explicit that these interpretations bear no relevance. The Quran frequently mentions the jinn and the men, in a manner as to indicate that they are two separate creations.
For this, see Surah 7, Al-Araf, verse 38, Surah 11, Hud, verse 119, Surah 32, As-Sajda, verse 25-29, Surah 46, Al-Kahf, verse 18, Surah 51, Az-Zariyat, verse 56, and the entire Surah 55, Ar-Rahman,
which all bear clear evidence, so as to leave no room to regard the jinn as part of the human species.
In Surah 7, Al-Araf, verse 12, Surah 15, Al-Hijr, verse 26-27, and Surah 55, Ar-Rahman, verses 14-19.
It has been expressly stated that man was created out of clay and jinn out of fire. In Surah 15, Al-Hijr, verses 27, it has been said that the jinn were created before man.
Adam.
This is testified by the story of Adam and Iblis,
Satan,
which has been told in 7 different places in the Quran, each one confirming that Iblis was already there at the creation of Adam. Moreover,
in Surah 18, Al-Kahf, verse 50,
it has been stated that Iblis belonged to the jinn.
In Surah 7, Al-Araf, verse 27,
it has been stated in clear words that the jinn see the human beings, but the human beings cannot see them, unless they reveal themselves.
In Surah 15, Al-Hijr, verse 16-18, Surah 37, As-Safat, verse 6-10, and Surah 67, Al-Mulk, verse 5.
It has been said that although the jinn can ascend to the heavens, they cannot exceed a certain limit. If they try to ascend beyond that limit and try to hear what goes on in the heavens, they are not allowed to do so, and are driven away by meteorites. By this, the belief of the polytheistic Arabs, that the jinn possess the knowledge of the unseen, or have access to divine secrets, has been refuted. The same error has also been refuted.
In Surah 34, Saba, verse 14, Surah 2, Al-Baqarah, verse 30-34, and Surah 18, Al-Kahf, verse 50,
which show that God has entrusted mankind with the position of viceroy on the earth, and that mankind is superior to the jinn. Although the jinn have been given certain extraordinary powers and abilities. An example of this is found in Surah 27, An-Naml, verse 39. Likewise, the animals have been given some powers greater than man, but they are not superior to man. The Quran also explains that jinn, like men, are a creation possessing power and authority to choose between obedience and disobedience, faith and disbelief. This is confirmed by the story of Satan and the event of the jinn, affirming faith as found in Surah Al-Kahf in this surah. At scores of places in the Quran, it has also been stated that Iblis at the very creation of Adam, resolved to misguide mankind. Since then, he and his army of satanic jinn have been persistently trying to mislead mankind. However, they do not have the power to overwhelm man and make him do something forcibly. Rather, they inspire him with evil suggestions,
understood as thoughts, whispers, and voices in the mind,
and beguiling him, making evil seem good to him.
For this, see Surah An-Nisa, verse 117-120, Surah Al-Araf, verses 11-17, Surah Ibrahim, verse 22, Surah Al-Hijr, verses 30 to 42, Surah An-Nahl, verses 98 to 100, Surah Al-Isra, verses 61 to 65.
The Quran also tells us that in the days of pre-Islamic ignorance, the polytheistic Arabs regarded the jinn as associates of God, worshipped them and thought they descended from God.
For this, see Surah Al-An'am, verse 100, Surah 34, Saba, verses 40 to 41, and As-Safat, verse 158.
From these details, it becomes abundantly clear that the jinn have their own objective existence, and are a concealed creation, an entirely different species from man. Because of their mysterious, and some having powerful qualities, ignorant people have formed exaggerated notions and concepts about them and have even worshipped them. A conscious look at the hideous nature and form of some of the idols worshipped today leads one to conclude that these may be jinns that had manifest themselves to people of the past. So the Quran has explained the whole truth about them, which shows the reality of what they are and what they are not. Theme and topics. In this surah in verses 1 to 15, we are informed about the impact of the Quran on the company of the jinn, when they heard it and what they said to their fellow jinn when they returned to them. God, in this connection, has not cited their whole conversation, but only those particular things which were worthy of mention. That is why the style is not that of a continuous speech, but sentences have been cited to indicate that they said this and that. If one studies these sentences spoken by the jinn carefully, one can easily understand the reason for the narration of this event, of their affirming the faith and mentioning their conversation with their people in the Quran. After this, in verses 16 to 18, the people have been admonished, informing them that if they refrain from polytheism and firmly follow the way of righteousness, they will be blessed. Otherwise, if they turn away from the admonition sent down by God, they will meet a severe punishment. Then, in verses 19 to 23, the disbelievers of Mecca have been reproached for the manner in which they surround and mob the messenger of God, informing them that the duty of the messenger is only to convey the message, and that he does not have any power to bring any gain or cause any harm to the people. Then, in verses 24 to 25, the disbelievers have been warned about trying to overpower and suppress the messenger, perceiving him to be weak and without many helpers, and that a time will come when they will know, who in actual fact is weak and less in number. Whether that time is far off or near at hand, the messenger has no knowledge thereof, but it will come to pass in any case. In conclusion, the people have been told that the knower of the unseen is God alone. The messenger receives only that knowledge which God gives him. This knowledge pertains to matters connected with the duties of prophethood, and it is delivered to him securely without any external interference whatsoever, from jinns or anything else. Surah 72. Al-Jinn. In the name of God, the most compassionate, the most merciful. Say, O Muhammad, it has been revealed to me that a group of the jinn listened and said, Indeed we have heard an amazing Quran recitation, it guides to the right course, and we have believed in it. And we will never associate with our Lord anyone. And it teaches that exalted is the nobleness of our Lord. He has not taken a wife or a son, and that our foolish one, Iblis, has been saying about God, an excessive transgression. And we had thought that mankind and the jinn would never speak about God a lie. And there were men from mankind, who sought refuge in men from the jinn, so they only increased them in burden, sin, and they had thought, as you thought, that God would never send anyone as a messenger. And we have sought to reach the heaven, but found it filled with powerful guards and burning flames. And we used to sit therein, in positions for hearing. But whoever listens now, will find a burning flame lying in wait for him. And we do not know therefore, whether evil is intended for those on earth, or whether their Lord intends for them a right course. and among us are the righteous, and among us are others. Not so, we were of divided ways, and we have become certain that we can never frustrate God on earth, nor can we escape, Him by flight. And when we heard the guidance, the Quran, we believed in it. And whoever believes in his Lord will not fear deprivation or burden, and among us are Muslims in submission to God, and among us are the unjust, and whoever has become Muslim, those have sought out the right course. But as for the unjust, they will be, for hell, firewood. And God revealed, that if they had remained steadfast on the way, we would have given them abundant rain, provision, so we might test them therein. And whoever turns away from the remembrance of his Lord, He will put into arduous punishment. And He revealed that the masjids are for God, so do not invoke with God anyone. And that when the servant, prophet of God, stood up supplicating Him, they almost swarm all over him, say, O Muhammad, I only invoke my Lord, and do not associate with Him anyone. Say, indeed I possess no power to do you harm, or to guide you right. Say, indeed no one can ever protect me from God, nor will I find another than Him, a refuge, except to convey what I receive from God, and His messages. And whoever disobeys God and His messenger, then indeed for him is the fire of hell, they will abide therein, forever. The disbelievers continue, until when they see that which they are promised. Then they will know, who is weaker in helpers and less in number. Say, I do not know, if what you are promised is near, or if my Lord will grant for it a long period. He is knower of the unseen, and He does not disclose His knowledge of the unseen to anyone, except whom He has approved of messengers, and indeed He sends before Him each messenger, and behind him, observers, that He, Muhammad, may know that they have conveyed the messages of their Lord, and He has encompassed whatever is with them, and He keeps account of everything in numbers.